welcome to the Future Focus series. Let's meet. So please note that guests will be muted during this session. Use the chat feature to ask questions, and this session will be recorded for future viewing. Today, we're going to be talking about the hospitality, but specifically food and beverage. So we have with us today speaker Chef Jack Page. I am your host, Diane Peterson, and Michelle Cook is going to be the co-host. So if you do have questions, you can go ahead and type them in to the chat feature and Michelle will retrieve them for you. So before we get started and have to hear what Chef Jack has to say, we're going to just watch a quick video on the
I would describe myself as
hospitality
bored
business
most of the time. But right now, I'm searching for the next passion. College wasn't for me. When I was growing up, my grandparents had a little and pop restaurant that I got to help out at. They started with just a little trailer, like sheet metal on the roof. I could see myself taking over the family business, but there's a lot more I need to learn. I'm interested to see how a more upscale version of a restaurant operates.
I've been doing this for about 16 years. I've done everything from busing to serving, bartending, and now I'm the general manager.
I don't know anything about managing restaurants at all.
I oversee a lot of things, but my main focus is to make sure that the restaurant is running efficiently. It's a fine balance between taking care of the staff and taking care of the guests.
What really impressed me about Elvin was his graciousness and his outspoken way of wanting to make sure the guests had a really great time.
All right, so first things first, take off the jacket and put the apron on. I had him put out a fire with me. So my hostess just told me that we dropped the ball. Our reservation had to wait 15 minutes for their table. So what I'm gonna have you do is take this champagne over to them. Remember to smile.
His primary focus was just making sure that everyone that came into the restaurant was taken care of and happy. Hey guys, welcome to P6. We're sorry about the wait, so we wanted to give you all a little token of our appreciation. You know, just smooth things over and wish you all a happy anniversary, and your table will be ready soon.
All right, that was good. But they're already sitting at the table, so you could have left that part out. No big deal. Great job otherwise. They seem very happy. What impressed me about Cole was his demeanor. He comes from a family that has restaurants, and you can tell that he has a passion for it.
One thing I learned from Elvin today is that even if something goes wrong, you can still recover and fix it, and it's best to just sort of face that problem head on.
I'm excited to see where he goes with this.
My name is Alejandro Munoz. I am the Chef de Cuisine at Arlo Gray. Chef de Cuisine is responsible for all day-to-day operations that happens within the restaurant, as far as back of the house goes. I love the instant gratification that I get from watching a guest enjoy the food. I've been cooking for 14 years. I get to be creative every day, from conceptualizing a dish to getting it onto the menu to the plating of the actual dish, which there's a lot of thought, a lot of creativity that go into those things.
My first impression of Alex was that, wow, this guy's really energetic and passionate about what he's doing.
So I'm going to have you plate the burrata with me today. This dish is very focused on plating creativity. People eat with their eyes first. It has to look appetizing first and foremost. You want to think of the plate as kind of a clock. So I like to plate my first bite at 6 o'clock. That looks good. Now that's going to be a lot of lemon.
I actually had a lot more fun plating than I thought I would. It was fun to really get creative with it.
Cole, with his plating, did very well. It's a little rough around the edges, but all in all, it looked almost exactly the same.
It's like something I'm proud of. I like it.
Excellent.
Seeing a chef be completely in his element and how happy that made him, and that made me excited to learn a lot more.
I'm the Director of Food and Beverage at the Line Hotel. The Director of Food and Beverage is responsible for anything food and beverage related. So restaurants, bars, banquets and catering space, the kitchens. About 80 people report to me. I wear a lot of hats, managing a lot of egos and managing managers, managing chefs. They have knives, so you have to be careful.
My first impression of Sang is that this dude clearly knows a lot about what makes a restaurant tick. I barely knew that role even existed. How long ago did you start?
So I've been doing this for a little bit over 16 years. My family was in the hotel business. Started at the bottom. I don't see myself doing anything else.
I love learning that he came from a hotel family. I saw a lot of myself in him.
Hospitality is fun. You get to drink and eat. Half of the revenue that food and beverage makes is from alcohol. This bottle costs the hotel $15. What we pay for the bottle is what we charge the guests for the glass of wine.
It made me think a lot about what I could bring to something like my own restaurant.
He reminds me of myself. Good energy, he always had a smile. That kind of personality is extremely useful.
I could really picture myself in that position, behind the scenes, running everything. That's a $15 cocktail, right?
Good, there you go. That's what we want.
I'll definitely look back on this day as a turning point in my career.
I really think he can go as far as he wants to push himself.
I definitely see Cole in the hospitality industry.
I could potentially see myself playing a role similar to Sang's. I think because it's sort of the best of both worlds, the strictly business side and the more guest-oriented guest satisfaction side.
You should be very patient. Takes a while, but it's worth it.
Very nice.
Okay, we're going to have Chef Jack Page introduce himself. So Chef, if you could take it away.
Well, hello, everybody. My name's Chef Jack Page. I've been in hospitality and restaurants, hotels, a little bit of healthcare for going on 37 years now. So there's not a lot of things I have or have not seen in the restaurant business. I'm a restaurant chef, general manager, and a entrepreneur where I've now moved on to opening various restaurants. I've done 18 restaurant chains or 18 restaurants now, including some chain restaurants, some independent restaurants, one restaurant for the Community Foundation downtown, and I really enjoy it.
So what kind of person does it take to be in the restaurant business?
A restaurant person is outgoing, I think. They're creative. They seem to have a lot of drive. That's one of the things that when I'm interviewing for positions, even my managers and people that will eventually take over the entire restaurant for me is it's really a prerequisite of mine is I can't teach drive. I can teach many things in the restaurant industry and show various techniques and platings and ways of combining flavor profiles and how to set up your restaurant and everything, but I can't teach the drive aspect. That's something you have to have in your heart. That's something that you have to be drawn to and have a passion for. And in listening to the video that we just listened to, that's one of the things that came across a couple of different times was passion. It was passion in the back of the house. It was passionate to take care of the guests and the guest services part. And I think that really rings true is it requires a bit of passion and everything to drive through some of the challenges that you'll face in hospitality and food service.
Could you describe a typical day? I know there really isn't a typical day, but what would I expect to be doing if I was to work in a restaurant?
It's funny. Yeah, you said typical days, and the first thing I can tell you about a restaurant day is if you only put out 3 or 4 fires a day, and I'm not meaning literal fires, although that can happen in a restaurant. If you're only putting out maybe 3 fires a day, you've had an excellent day and you should chalk it up and cook yourself a great meal at the end of it because you've done a great time. But typically, as far as a chef's world, we're up early and out the door. Depending on the type of restaurant you're running, you may be going directly to the restaurant to accept deliveries for things that you'll need for your staff as they're coming in, or in some local source restaurants. I personally was out at 6 a.m. to the local Muskegon farmers market and purveying through with the vendors there, setting up for what would be my specials for the next 2 days based on what looked fresh and what was there and available. Then typically you're moving into your early morning, you'll come into your restaurant, you will check over the facility, make sure everything's fine and dandy. The close the night before was fine. Staff will start showing up and you'll be getting them into the positions and everything, getting their prep cycle up and running. Before you know it, it's almost lunchtime and your servers are showing up. Knock on some wood, everybody shows up. That's a challenge you'll face in the restaurant industry is we're all people. We really are. And all people have challenges and things, that children get sick and cars break down and things like that. So you may end up wearing 3 or 4 or 5 hats during the day. And hopefully, as it says in our thing, you're focused enough. It says future focused in our thing, in our presentation today, that you're focused enough that you can guide your restaurant through those things. You get through your lunch service, you get a little downtime in the middle of the day, typically is when I would write schedules or place orders or things like that, when I can be away from the actual overseeing of the facility right then. You'll have a shift change around 3 or 4 o'clock, and then you'll gear up and get ready to do the same at dinner service. When dinner service is over, then you're usually checking out a bunch servers as they're clearing out for the day, and watching and maintaining your standards on your cooks as they close down your facility.
So I heard
It's packed. It's a packed full day. You and it's something that one thing I always usually tell most of the people coming into my facilities is I'll ask them a couple of questions right off the bat, and one of them is, do you like change? Because our industry changes. I mean, cars only change their models once a year. We change our menus 4 or 5, maybe 6 times a year.
So you mentioned one of the, or you mentioned fires, and then I heard you say that you really didn't call it a fire, but I imagine it could be if you have staff that aren't reporting to work. So could you also give us an idea of what some of those other fires might be?
Sure. Let me think of a day in particular. I came into the restaurant, and it was a restaurant located in Holland, close here. And it was very cold like this day. And we came into having no water in the facility right off the bat because things were frozen up. So the first thing I was doing was on the phone with a plumbing company to have them come out and thaw us out. Fortunately, they could respond right away. And by 9 o'clock in the morning, we had water and things like that. Transition to right about 9:15, and that's when most of the staff would be getting into their cars, scraping them off, heading into work. And because of the same thing, because of a cold day like today, I had 3 staff that were immediately, there's no way I can get to work. I'm frozen in, my car is not starting, it won't even turn over, and what do I do? Right then and there, I made some quick decisions and called one of my restaurant lead servers who was up and running towards the restaurant and say, listen, I need you to be a half an hour late. And she says, really? And I said, yeah, what I need you to do is I need you to go and pick up 4 coffees at any place you want to get them. I'll they're going to be on me and everything. And then I need you to go and pick up these 2 people at their houses for them and bring them into work. And not only did they get picked up and were able to come into their shift, but they had a hot cup of coffee in their hand when they walked in the car. So that showed them a little bit that it wasn't that I was angry that these things happened. I cared about them. I wanted them to be able to get into their shift.
Okay, it sounds like you're very much a people person. Obviously, if you're going to buy coffee for somebody, but could you also tell me why you got into the business or how you got into the business?
Yeah, I started just like a lot of people have started. It was a simple, I was 16 years old and I was looking for my first job and what could I do? And a local pizza delivery and a local place. This was before Domino's or Little Caesars or any of those guys were in town, hired me to deliver pizza. Well, okay. So after a couple, 3 days of delivering pizza, I was like, well, is there anything I can do here around the restaurant? And started to learn a simple, easy pizza type restaurant and everything. Just a little while later, a friend of mine called from a restaurant that was downtown where Fricano's is currently in Muskegon. It was a restaurant called Brenneman's way back in the day. And he said, hey, Jack, do you really want to look at only pizza all the time? And I went, no, I don't. So I took a position there as a line cook and started to, as the video was saying, work my way up through the ranks. While I was doing that, I was still going to school and I enrolled in Muskegon Community College's local, it was called a food service lodging and travel program at that point. And it was some basic management skills to further your career in that point. So that's how I got into it. After that, it was just off to the races. We opened up a couple of hotels here in Muskegon. What is the Delta Marriott opened as a Hilton hotel when it first opened in 1986, and I was on their opening crew. After things progressed, I got better at what I did. I rose up to sous chef and eventually executive chef. And now mostly my roles are, I'm a general manager, so I'll oversee the entire restaurant and I hire the chef now and develop restaurant concepts and ideas to get out onto the market.
Well, thank you. I do have a question. And one of the questions is, and you did talk about some training, so this fits in nicely. They ask, do you need to have formal training to be a chef?
I would say, I've seen people be successful both ways. I've seen people come up through a restaurant, through the ranks without any formal training. We're trained by the people doing it. But as far as once you want to move on to the next level and become a general manager and things like that, there's definitely going to need to be trainings involved in how to manage the systems, how to manage your food costs, how to manage your labor costs, the computer systems, and some things like that you will definitely need to know about. Typically I have my phone, I have my laptop, and sometimes I even have a tablet on board every day as some of the technologies I have to use. So you have to be trained in some things like Excel and Word and spreadsheets. And, you don't have to be 100% the best at them, but you definitely want to know how to work those systems, because as you do rise up the ranks, you'll get better at them. You'll get more exposure to them and things like that. And it will take time. Like the video said before, it's not a career where you think you're 18 now and by 21 you'll be the executive chef of your own restaurant. I see it takes a lot more growth.
It's kind of connected to that. I have another question. And the question is, why do chefs change restaurants that they work for? You talked about growth, so maybe you could have maybe given an answer for that one.
A lot of the family-based ones will not. I've seen chefs like Ted Sirleone here in town that's owned Teddy Spaghetti's and a few different restaurants. He's been a family-based chef, and he's basically stayed true to just what he did. Now, a lot of times places will hire chefs, and yeah, you're exactly correct. We talked about change and things like that. After a couple to 2 to 3 years, a lot of times you'll use up a chef's all of their great ideas at that point. And then either the chef will decide it's time for him to move on and reinvent himself into something else, or the management of the restaurant will say, okay, we need something fresh, new, and things, and they'll focus for another chef. A lot of times, what it's been in my experience is I'll train under chefs and sous chefs up through the ranks, and then my sous chefs will leave and go and start and form their own restaurants. So a lot of times and that will, and usually with my blessing, because when a sous chef leaves a restaurant, it's funny because typically they'll take 2 or 3 of the staff with them for their next project. And as long as your relationships are good and everything, it's usually not a surprise. And you've planned it that way. You want people to continue to grow. You want people to continue to strive for that next thing. And so they can take care of their families, and they can make a little more money, and they can get better benefits. And that's not something you should ever be afraid of as an operator, is having somebody come in and get so good they replace you. You want that. You want to strive for that. That's how restaurants run the best.
All right, thank you. Another question. What has been your favorite role in the business?
It's been, I guess my favorite role in the business is watching the satisfaction on people's faces when you've done something you're proud of. When you've given them a dish that, when I go into a restaurant now, I'll look at the menu and I'll, maybe pick out a couple, 3 things I'm interested in. And then when the server comes to the table, I'll ask her, okay, hey, I'm thinking about this, or this. Tell the chef to send me something he's proud of. And I typically get, some of the most interesting and amazing food I've ever had that. And I think that's how it's impacted me too, is I want to send that proud dish out. And when you see that, that's a satisfaction right there.
Well, and I think you just answered our next question, because this one says, you talked about personal connections and the video talked about making customers happy. How do you do that? So other than with the food, how else do you do that?
Really, it's an overall dining experience. It starts when they've made the decision to come to your restaurant and something's drawn them to it. Then when they pull up to the front door, it starts with, okay, is there adequate parking? Are things taken care of? Does the place look nice? Is the parking lot all clean? Is there, and once they walk in the door, are they greeted? A lot of places need to refocus, I think, on that individual touch and finding the staff that are able to make those connections to people. Because once you start making that connection, especially, as soon as they walk in the door and the hostess doesn't look rushed and isn't flipping through papers and grabbing this and this, but are taking the time to see people and acknowledge them, it sets the experience level right then and there. And then you move on. And as long as the engine flows and the order's taken on time and the drinks go out on time and the food comes in on time and everything, you'll create the best experience you have. And no amount of money you can spend on advertising is ever going to trump is ever going to outweigh that experience that you're going to get inside the 4 walls of the restaurant.
Well, that sounds like a very difficult job. But one of the things, or 3 of the things I heard, is that if you have that particular job, so you're looking for your staff to be able to adapt to change. You're looking that they have some drive, and you're looking, I guess that drive is also that passion. Is there any other advice you could give for people that are thinking about this industry?
Well, yeah, it's a few different things. One is you have to like people. You really have to like people, because your entire job, your entire way of your entire reason for being there is to feed people and make them happy. And you're doing that surrounded by other people around you, all your staff and everything. I liken myself to two things in restaurants. I'm either a ship captain, and I'm just the guy with the wheel in my hand and I'm steering the ship, but everybody around me is the ship. Without them, I'm just a guy holding a wheel sunk to the bottom of the ocean. And the other way is I'm a conductor of an orchestra. I can stand up there and wave my wand and tap the stick and everything, but unless the whole orchestra is playing well, we don't make music. So I really think it's finding and building that team, building that relationship within your restaurant, and then your customers will see that as they come in. If those are things that are important to you, if those are things that make you tick, then this is probably an industry you'll do okay in.
Wow, you've given us so much insight. I want to thank you so much for spending some of your time with us this morning.
Sure.
I don't have any more questions, and we're coming up to the time. So maybe if we could just have one last remark for you. I did want to mention that in the resources on the registration page, I do have a interactive PDF where you can go ahead and research some of the different careers. And then I also want to thank you for attending today. Chef Jack, is there anything else you want to say to us?
Yeah, put yourself out there.
Excellent.
Put yourself out there. It will, if you shine, you'll shine with it.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You bet.